ECU?
R.
Do you bleed purple and gold? Are you ready to hoist the colors?
Hoist the colors!
It's time for the most in-depth look into the world of ECU athletics. Welcome to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. Watch the show live on Facebook and at 943thegame.com. Here's Stephen Igo.
Welcome in. It is Tuesday, May 27th. We are just 3 days away from the Conway Regional and East Carolina opening play against Florida. 72 hours on the dot. It's hard to believe, as it'll be at 12 noon first pitch between the Gators and Pirates on Friday. To open up the Conway Regional, we'll dive into that. So much more. We've got a lot to get to because we originally thought we'd have this week to kind of sit back, relax a little bit, dive into some off-season topics, but that's going to have to wait for now because we've got Pirate Baseball to dive into. To give you guys kind of a sample of what's to come this week before we talk about today's show. By the way, we are live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. If you got a question, a comment, a concern about anything baseball or ECU related or whatever, drop it in the chat. We'll get to it over the course of the next hour as we're live on all those platforms. But Wednesday, we will be joined by the Carolina Curveball crew, Kason Romeli, former Hoist the Colors intern, and his buddy Braxton, who helps run Carolina Curveball. They're going to join us to preview the entire field of 64, as we'll look not only at the Conway Regional, but the entire regional to come. Thursday, we're going to try to really dive into the opponents, which we'll do some on our end today. But we'll catch up with Graham Hall from Swamp 24/7, who covers the Gators, and also trying to connect with a Coastal Carolina beat writer and trying to find somebody who knows about Fairfield baseball as well for Thursday. And then Friday, there will be no show because we'll have regional play. So that's just a sign of things to come. Of course, we had our special yesterday with Patrick Johnson and Mike Mullis, which you can catch archived on YouTube and Facebook, and I think also the Patrick Johnson Show archive podcast channels as well. All right, we have the return of Philip Pilkington, who is fresh off a trip to Charlotte. And Philip, before I ask you about seeing your guy finishing second, which I'm sure you got some bittersweet feelings there, but how much were you able to follow this ECU baseball run? We kind of talked about going into the weekend. We didn't really think we'd be in this point. We knew the Pirates had to go 4-0, and here we are, man, talking about some postseason baseball, just like we originally thought months ago, but certainly not what we thought a few weeks ago and last week.
Well, you hit the nail on the head when you said we knew this team had to go 4-0. I knew they could go 4-0. I just didn't know if they could go, 4-1 and be victorious, or 5-1 or something crazy. But hey, we'll never know. We don't have to know, and that's a good thing. So, unfortunately, I was not able to watch it probably as close as other people. The problem is when you get down into the infield, there's just so many people. It's really hard to get Wi-Fi. They had TV there, but they had the Indy 500 on, at noon. So I was more just kind of keeping up with my phone, streaming when I could. So maybe I'm the bad luck charm. Maybe I need to continue to not pay attention. Of course, I did participate in the watch along in which they won, and I produced the first game which they won. So maybe I'm not. Who knows?
And it is amazing, Philip, what a winning baseball team will do to infuse energy back into our lives. I mean, we've had the Bucks on the Pond podcast the last two nights, and it has been electric, man. It has been absolutely electric. Look, we had thousands of views on the watch-alongs. Again, shout out to Basils and Subdogs for their support. We had thousands of views with our Bucks on the Pond podcast the last two nights, and it's just like it went from 0 to 100. I will give one Lane Smith credit, as he is in the chat. He did call this run. Now, I think he may have originally said ECU would only lose one between South Florida and Clearwater, but we've given Lane a lot of crap this year. I will say this, Lane, I didn't believe in this team. I think there were several points you didn't believe in this team either, Lane, but when it mattered most, you said they were going to go 4-0 in Clearwater and win the championship, and they did. So, look, we've been hard on Lane. He may have been the only guy besides the people in the clubhouse and Scott Lowerbatcher on our podcast that thought the Pirates were really going to do it.
Yeah, I think he was, and I was with Lane. Was it right after the South Florida series, I think? And he was he still believed, man. It was we were hanging out at the pool one day, and I was like, man, South Florida didn't go how you predicted. And he's like, nah, man, we're okay. We're still gonna win this thing. And sure enough, he was right. So, hey, look, he doubled down on his bet, and sometimes doubling down is the way to go. Sometimes it's not. But hey, Lane, thanks for at least being one positive Pirate fan along with Scott.
All right, we got a comment from Andrew W, who says, I noticed this too, which is why I'm laughing at it. He says the AAC postgame interviews looked and sounded like they were being recorded on a first-generation iPod Touch. This conference is something special. I don't know if you saw this, Philip, but yeah, they were like, I don't know what's the deal with these these miniature microphones. Everybody thinks it's like really cool to like hold a miniature mic, and I'm like, first off, if it is I think the official term is a lapel mic. You're supposed to like attach it on. You're not supposed to sit there and hold it like it's a real microphone. But I did notice the American had that as well, the mini microphone. And look, I'll give the American credit for at least doing a post-game Zoom. Now, the whole operation wasn't great, but also, like, there were times, Phil, it was literally just me and whoever was with us on the watch line. Like, me and Chance were the only people on the post-game Zoom. So it's like, why put a lot of effort into something that really only 2 media members are going to hop on board? So, like, I can see both sides. I do wish the ECU media would have been a little bit more involved with the post-game Zooms because you had a team going on the title run. But, look, the American, we criticize them a lot. They've done some good stuff as well. I give them credit for at least trying to make baseball important. But the problem is conference-wide, it's just not very important.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on the why put effort and money into something that there's not really a return. Look, you and I went to Charlotte this year. How many media members were at the first game against Charlotte? 2. The 2 of us. How many media members were at the second and the third game? 1. Just me. They had no home media. They have never traveled. No one in this conference has ever traveled media to us. Now, this conference is not geographically permittable to travel a lot of media, but even I think a lot of the hometown stuff, you know, when teams are at home, maybe Wichita might have some, but these teams do not have a lot of media. So I do kind of understand the lackluster coverage or the lackluster effort on the side of the conference because nice things do cost money, and why would you spend money on something if it's just to please Stephen Igo?
Just to please me. Hey, it can get you a nice tweet at least. I'll sing your praises on Twitter. So, Philip, I want to get your take on just the team's run. Look, I've talked about enough between all my podcasts. I do have some more thoughts I was thinking about this morning that I'll get into. But, you know, your take on the Pirates going through, winning a championship, and their draw with the Conway Regional.
Yeah, so for the championship thing, look, they kept themselves, I think, in my opinion, ahead of the 8-ball. And that's one of the things that I think, unfortunately, this team does not have the talent really to pull themselves out of holes. I mean, they can sporadically, but it's not something I think they can do on a consistent level like some of the past Pirate teams. That's no knock on the players. It's just how much talent God blessed them with. And look, but they are good enough to go out there and beat anybody. And when they don't give up free 90s, whether that be from the staff or from the fielding, when they hit the ball or at least move runners when they're in scoring position, not a lot of things are going to go bad for this team as long as they don't force bad things on themselves. And I thought through all 4 games, did they play perfect? Absolutely not. But they got out to early leads. Their pitching was able to, even the guys who maybe didn't have a great day were at least missing over the middle and forcing teams to beat them. We were not giving up a lot of free 90s. But yeah, it stinks. Zayak came out and let up 4 runs in an inning and 2/3, but he let up 4 or 5 hits during that span. You know, obviously one of those runs that came home was once Young had already taken the mound. But again, Ethan Young lets up back-to-back home runs. But again, they were home runs. He forced the two-lane hitters to be better than him. And when you force people to be better than you, and they're not better than you, you're going to be successful. They were more talented than every single team they played in this tournament, and because they didn't beat themselves, they came out victorious. As for the draw, well, go ahead. Sorry, what were you about to say, Igo?
No, I was going to follow up. Yeah, your take on getting Florida and the rematch with Coastal.
Yeah, so
potentially.
So as for getting this, look, you're 3 who is an automatic qualifier. You are not an at-large 3. Therefore, you're viewed by the committee as a weak 3. You're going to get a good 2. You're going to get a 2 out of the SEC or a really good ACC 2. We knew this was going to happen if East Carolina midterm. We've known this for a month now. Look, SEC teams are battle-tested. They're tough. They're good. You're going to have to play perfect to beat Florida. And I'm not saying this team's not capable of it, because they sure as hell are capable of beating Florida. But you're going to have to play a damn near perfect game, because that is a really good baseball team. The team that is not going to make mistakes, and that is a team that views you as a lesser opponent than them, but I do not think they're going to get cocky with it. On the other side, yes, getting Coastal in this thing. Look, I've said for years, and Igo's said it, and I think a lot of our listeners have said it, these two teams should play each other more. They came a few years ago in a regional when Gilmore was still the coach, but it hasn't been a consistent thing. You know, it seems like Virginia's kind of been the geographical consistency with regionals of late. But this is another opportunity. You already saw them 3 times. You're going to see them 3 times, the third, fourth week of the season, something like that. We don't know the exact dates next year. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity to go out there and play a team who you've seen, who's seen you, that, you know, comes from a great baseball culture down there in Conway. They're only 9 years removed from a World Series championship. And if I was them, I'd be a little ticked off, because they know there's going to be a lot of purple and gold in those stands on Saturday if the two teams do have to meet. And if I was them, I'd have been like, give me some, you know, I don't know, some other 3 that automatically qualified that's on the, you know, kind of on the cusp of this thing.
Yeah, Coastal, I feel like got the, I don't know, I'm not going to say that they got screwed, but it kind of feels like they got the shortest end of the stick. Maybe they did get screwed. I mean, there was talk about them being a potential top 8 seed, and they end up at 13. You know, your reward for hosting and winning, 18 consecutive games, doubling up as a Sun Belt regular season and conference tournament title. Hey, you get an ECU team as your 3 that's hot going in and that nearly took a series from you in the regular season, and you get Florida, which may be the most talented 2 seed in the entire field. And by the way, you're not a top 8, so enjoy this. I do feel like that was a little bit of a slap in the face. You have that factor for Coastal going their way. I think there's going to be plenty of motivation on their side. They also have, by the way, have a tough 4 seed in Fairfield. Florida, you have talent out the wazoo. I mean, they're just loaded every single year, national championship caliber talent. And then ECU, we know, typically plays its best brand of baseball this time of year, and it took a little bit longer than ever in 2025, but here we are with the Pirates going in. So, yeah, Coastal by far. I know Aaron Fitch tweeted, this looks like a juicy regional on paper. I think it definitely nationally will grab some headlines. Anytime you have a host that is not from the power conference, I think it just brings some intrigue nationally, because it highlights their fan base. We know Coastal fans in baseball are great. You know, most people know the ECU brand in college baseball. There has been a ton of Florida fans coming over to 24/7 Sports on hoistthecolors.net, you know, singing the praises of the program, which has been pretty cool. And then you've got Florida, which is a former national champion. So, and Fairfield a few years ago made some noise in another regional. So I just think nationally this shapes up to be one of the more fascinating regionals in the country.
It does. I really agree with you on that. I think it is shaping up just because of the powerhouse of the SEC, and then the hotness of East Carolina, and the fact that it's a name brand. But I'm just kind of looking at the other things here, because you mentioned that Coastal, who should have been a host, kind of get hosed with this regional. Well, they're the number 13 overall seed. So let's look at just a quick dive here into number 14. Tennessee will be hosting Wake Forest as their 2, and Cincinnati as their 3. I would say, despite Cincinnati being from the Big 12 and being from a power conference, I think ECU is probably a little better. Moving over to the 15. Now, these are always weird because of travel reasons. So when you go to the West Coast, it's generally going to be West Coast teams. So UCLA has UC Irvine as the 2. I would say UC Irvine is going to be a much less of a 2 than Florida, to your point, Igo. And this is the 15 seed as opposed to the 13 seed. Now, again, they want to try and limit travel, and I get that. But you got to say that UCLA has a much easier 2. And then they have Arizona State as their 3, who, you know, probably a little better than East Carolina, an at-large team out of the Big 12, one of the last teams in the tournament. But, again, they still did get an at-large bid. They've been a little bit more consistent than ECU this year. And then, of course, probably the most intriguing regional, Southern Miss, has got Alabama as their 2 and Miami as their 3. So really, I think the only thing where Coastal can be upset is UCLA getting a tougher draw than them because, Tennessee, again, Wake's pretty tough. Yeah, they're ACC, not SEC, so that's a little different. But obviously you couldn't flip the 2 because you couldn't be sending Florida to Knoxville. So overall, Coastal, I'd say it is what it is. Sorry, boys, but this is what you get. I know they're on an 18-game win streak. They probably deserve better than the 13 seed, but as of sitting at 13, it does kind of all, play out, I guess, pretty evenly with the exception of the UCLA thing.
It's hard to believe also that ECU has not faced an SEC school that was currently in the SEC or at the time in a regional since the 2018 Greenville Regional, which was won by South Carolina. Obviously, you had Oklahoma a few years ago in Virginia, but that was at the time a Big 12 school, and they did not look like an SEC school. So you've seen some SEC schools in supers. Clearly the Vanderbilts won in the past, but for a school that is kind of in the, at least the range of the SEC, you've seen more ACC with Wake, NC State, Virginia's than SEC. So we finally get to see some SEC baseball, and we'll get more into this on the other side, Phil. But, I know a lot of fans are kind of, I don't want to say nervous, but at least some were like, man, how do we get Florida? I think ECU is going to rise to the occasion. They may not win, but I think we're going to see a good brand of baseball Friday because, how can you not get fired up to face the Florida Gators in any sport, especially a sport like baseball where they're consistently good? Yeah,
I think it's kind of got a lot of fire under you, right? Especially when you're playing your best baseball. So what a better time to play them. But it is interesting that you bring that up, that we are in the heart of ACC country as well, but the 2021 year, you get Maryland as your Power 5 school that comes in. They're obviously in the Big Ten now, and then all those ACC schools. So it's weird that South Carolina back in 2014 is the last time you've seen an SEC team in postseason play other than that one super regional, that you mentioned against Vanderbilt when we went to Nashville, because even the other super regional, you saw Louisville and you saw Texas, obviously Texas now in the SEC. But what was your original question? I was just kind of rambling about the intro. Oh, yeah, just they rise to the occasion?
Being ready to play it, yeah.
I think so. Look, man, whatever's going on there, Cliff, AK, Palumbo, Lartigue, they figured out something. They figured out, with each team it takes something different. They figured out what it takes with this team. They're in the right spot to be able to win that game. Like I said, not saying they're going to win it, but they're in a good spot to win it. I feel better right now about winning that game than I would have any point this year.
All right, we'll get a break in. We got a lot of comments to get to, so keep those coming. We'll address those throughout the show. Also, I'll tell you why. This just reminds me of a recent ECU run in the postseason, this year's team with the pressure off, which Cliff Godwin hit on yesterday as well. So we'll hit on that. This is Hoist the Colors on a Tuesday.
The team of Flatlands Jessup is working overtime to help ensure that Eastern North Carolinians like you get the health insurance help you need this open enrollment period. New legislation passed, meaning more people than ever qualify for affordable coverage. Let us help you today.
Are you ready to tackle those yard and garden projects? Come by East Carolina Tractor and Fleet, your local Coyote dealer, and check out their great selection of residential and commercial Coyote tractors. From zero-turn mowers to compact tractors to skid steer loaders, they've got you covered. Some with 0% financing for qualified buyers. Stop by your hometown Coyote dealer, East Carolina Tractor and Fleet, across from the Pitt County Fairgrounds, or online at ectfleet.com. East Carolina Tractor and Fleet. We dig dirt.
Big tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
At Parker's Barbecue, our family has been serving your family for 3 generations.
For that, we say thank you.
Blessing families every Thursday. Kids eat free all day. That's the Parker's way.
Legendary food served from our 3 locations. Always quick, always delicious. That's the Parker's way.
At Parker's, our mission is to impact our customers through Christ-like service in a way that feeds them both physically and spiritually. That is the Parker's way.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro-adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Healthwise Pharmacy rounds the bases with all of your infusion, retail, compounding, and medical equipment needs. Locally owned and operated by pharmacist Marcy Parker, Healthwise has grown to be your most trusted provider for infusion services. Currently providing in-home or on-site infusions in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Visit Healthwise Pharmacy at 615B South Memorial Drive or call 252-295-0059 to speak to a patient service representative to find the option that best suits your needs.
Tired of the 1-800 numbers advertising Medicare products? Flatlands Jessup has 6 offices all throughout eastern North Carolina. You get face-to-face help from our local award-winning licensed team. Stop by today. Flatlands Jessup, your whole world covered.
Pirates play here.
Time to play the game.
This is Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
It's Tuesday, May 27th. Welcome back into Hoist the Colors. We are diving into the Conway Regional. East Carolina will open play as the number 3 seed against second-seeded Florida on Friday, 12 noon Eastern. It will be a national television broadcast. ESPN2 on Friday is the scheduled start time, and then you also have the Coastal Carolina Fairfield game scheduled for 6 that night. The winners will take on each other in the winners bracket, as it is a double elimination game on Saturday night, a double elimination tournament, I should say, and then the losers will battle around noon. I don't know the official start time for Saturday, but earlier in the day, Saturday.
Noon.
All right.
Everything's noon. It's noon 6, noon 6, noon 6.
Noon 6. Noon 6, noon 6. So easy, of course, weather permitting. That is the voice of Philip Pilkington behind the scenes. All right, Philip, we got a lot of questions. We'll run through some of these or comments. John Moody says, I still can't get over the gutsy performance on Saturday. I do have to say, again, I don't know how closely you were following this, Philip, because you were on your way or in Charlotte at the time at Charlotte Motor Speedway for the festivities over the weekend. But ECU trailed 3-0 in the early game on Saturday, then 4-0, and they brought Ethan Young into the game. And there were a lot of people questioning, including yours truly. You know, I saw the standpoint from which ECU was doing it. They had come to the loser bracket. They know how much it takes a toll on your pitching. And my sense of the situation was Cliff Godwin was just like, all right, we're going to go to Ethan Young here early. We're going to try to keep the game manageable and then kind of lean on USF. And if we can keep it close, eventually they'll wear down. And really, that's exactly what happened. They had to go back to their ace, Corey Braun, who ECU had hit earlier in the week. And the Pirates, after getting down 4-0, come back. They win the game. They take the lead. USF punches back, and then ECU punches back with the Braden Burrus go-ahead home run, and then obviously holds off USF. Like, to me, I'm a John here. That's the type of toughness we are used to seeing from ECU baseball, and we have not seen that really at all this year. Maybe outside of an occasion or two, but like in the course of a game. And Cliff also referenced after that game, Philip, that Braden Burrus was in the dugout imploring teammates, "This guy on the mound is not going to beat us." And like, I don't know, I feel like something's happening there that we just have not seen this team really manifest all season.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is partially the Riley Johnson effect, him getting back in the lineup, or just some of these young guys like Braden Burrus taking that role. You know, Braden's kind of a more quiet kid. He comes across as the lead by example kid, and then also freshmen, a lot of times they don't want to say something and be too involved and too in people's face because then they're going to have guys turn against them. But obviously the teammates respect Braden a lot now at this point. He's earned that not only with his play on the field, but the attitude and the kind of young man that he is. But, you know, you're right, and John's right. And one of the things that people have to always remember, championship runs are built from winning games in all types of fashion. Only when you are playing video games at home do you beat the heck out of everybody every single game. That's not realistic in real life. you have to win and come from behind fashion. You have to hold off late pushes from, your opponent. You have to be able to win some games just comfortably from the opening punch, because all sorts of games get presented to you in real life, especially a sport like baseball where you play so many games. And, like you guys said it, they finally had that fire in him. Like we said, Zayac didn't have his best outing. And then, Young comes in, lets up that fourth run. And, hey, they start hitting, what's his name? Kid from South Florida.
Braun.
They start hitting Braun, which is great. And all things were going good. But then Norby comes in, lets up back-to-back bombs. And they could have, Young comes in and lets up the back-to-back bombs after having 3 or 4 just great shutdown innings. And this team could have easily said, well, here we go again. But again, look, like I said in the first segment, Ethan Young forced South Florida to beat him. They beat him. He missed over the plate. He didn't walk him. Solo bombs don't kill you, even though it was back-to-back. And sure enough, East Carolina fights back. And then the smallest kid on the team hits the go-ahead home run. So just shows you the kind of fire that this team has and has unfortunately not had all year. But it doesn't matter what you do in the regular season, baby. Just be good enough to get into your conference tournament, win the conference tournament, and winners write history, baby. So where how many ever wins that would be away from writing history. So just either make it, write it, or be it.
Hey, look, you're 5 wins away, depending on what path you take from Omaha. Like, I mean, when you put it that way, you could sweep a regional in 3, and you could win a super regional in 2. So I mean, technically, you're 5 wins away. So
and you've got the pitching to do it.
Yeah, I mean, if you do it the right way, it's possible. Now, are either of us going to pick ECU to go to Omaha? No. But this does really remind me, Philip, of the 2016 team, which different circumstances. That team was an at-large squad, but really, like, nobody expected them to do anything going into the postseason. They went 0-2 in the conference tournament and got bounced quickly. And I just remember that season, like, there was, I don't want to say negativity, but just like, all right, let's just go to the postseason. They had gone 0-2 in regional play the year prior at Miami. They were a 3 seed. Now they had, I think, a much better draw in a regional. They got Bryant was the 2 seed that year, which is obviously Bryant versus Florida, a little different. But that Bryant team did have a big leaguer on the mound in game 1. You go out, you beat them 9-1, and then you had to take on the defending national champion Virginia on its home field. You end up beating them in walk-off fashion. Everybody remembers the story. Like, that team was not that good, but like they found magic, and there was a reason the year after that they had monster expectations, came back to earth. It was all about the magic they found on that run. Yeah, there were injuries the following year as well, but they just believed. They found the magic. They won in different ways, and they were as close as any ECU team ever at the end of the day, 90 feet away from Omaha. So, like, look, I'm not saying this year's team is going to get there, but it feels similar from the standpoint of I personally don't expect this team to win the Conway Regional. They're going on the road as a 3 seed. I don't think many people are going to pick them to make it out of this regional, let alone the first game. And sometimes, this is the 35th time ECU's been in the postseason. Sometimes it's when you least expect it. You just got to keep putting yourself in position to make the postseason, which this team has in unorthodox fashion, and eventually things will break your way if you continue to knock on the door. So we'll just see where the cards fall. But it has a similar feeling, is my point.
Yeah, I think so. And like you said, that super in Lubbock was, I mean, that's the one everybody talks about. We talk about the Texas one, I think, now here in Greenville, but that one was probably the closest.
They had that game,
Yeah. So, look, you bring up the least expected, and it's happened so many times in sports. Unfortunately, yet it has not happened to us. But you think of who was going to knock off the undefeated Patriots. Well, it sure wasn't the Giants, who the only reason they made the playoffs is because they won a bad NFC East. Wrong. And you think of teams that have gone on immaculate runs. You think of L.A. Kings when they won their first Stanley Cup in 2010, and they were barely snuck in as an 8 seed. So these things can happen. I'm not saying East Carolina's going to go out there and win a national championship. I mean, they could. But there's one thing that this 2016 team has in common with that team, or this team now has in common with the 2016 team. It's the man who's calling the shots, the man who's giving the pregame speeches, the man who is leading them into battle. And if Cliff Godwin's the coach, unless the team is me, you, Dom, Isaac, and William, they can win a college baseball game. They can win any game they play. If it's us, maybe not. But these guys are D1 baseball players, and they're led by the winningest coach in East Carolina history.
No doubt, and there is a lot to play for the Pirates. We'll get another break in. We'll come back. We'll answer more of your questions as we head to the Conway Regional. We'll also take a look deeper into Florida. I've got their stats pulled up, and I know a lot of people want to know about the Gators, so we'll dive into that and more. This is Hoist the Colors on a Tuesday.
Hey, it's Jim Wells again with Wells Roofing and Gutters here in the beautiful community of Lindale, Bedford. At Wells Roofing and Gutters, we believe in quality first. And that's why we use Certainty shingles, which are manufactured in Oxford, North Carolina, a local company. In the event you ever do have a claim or a problem with your roof system, they're local and they come and take care of us in a timely manner. We could leave off some accessories and we could certainly save money, but we believe at Wells Roofing and Gutters in installing the correct way per manufacturer requirements, and we warranty your roof both in-house and also with our supplier, who is Certainteed. For a job Wells done, no shortcuts taken, and a good quality job on your home, give us a call today, 252-227-8403. We also offer financing, 12 months, no interest, no payments.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human. About creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
You have a choice when you invest in insurance, and when you choose First State Insurance Advisors, you're working with people you can trust. Clark Stallings has deep ties in the community. His team, including Keaton Smith, Regina Asby, Phil Leyva, Max Joyner Jr., Max Joyner III, and Ginger Smith, provides knowledgeable and professional advice. First State Insurance Advisors is an independent insurance agency. They offer all types of personal insurance as well as various types for business. Call or email First State Insurance Advisors today. We want to be your trusted choice agency.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked-to-order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
We're live with Steve and Igo on 94.3 The Game. Now, back to Hoist the Colors.
Back on Hoist the Colors here, 94.3 The Game. Philip Pilkington alongside. We're diving deeper into the Conway Regional, where the Pirates will be this weekend. We've got some questions and comments we need to get to on YouTube. Again, you can drop your question or comment in YouTube, X, or Facebook. We'll do our best to get to it. So, a brief look at Florida, Coastal, and Fairfield. Johnny Robertson with a number here that is worth mentioning. He says Walker Barron, ECU's catcher, was spectacular in Clearwater, but he will need to keep it up as Florida, Coastal, and Fairfield have stolen a combined 280 bases. So to give you some perspective there, East Carolina is a team that runs a decent amount. I would say they've stolen 67 of 80. Now, ECU has done a good job on the base pass this year of cutting down base runners. Only 49 stolen bases allowed in 61 attempts. So the percentage is not phenomenal, but the number of steals is very respectable. Florida alone has stolen 87 of 104 bags. So they are a team that runs a ton. And I'm sure Fairfield has speed, but they also play in the MAC, and I'm going to guess there's not too many good catchers in the MAC, the MAAC. And so, I don't know. I think that's the league they play in. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but that is an area that I would expect teams to try and take advantage of over the weekend. Although Coastal Carolina has an elite catcher in Caden Bodine, ECU has proven to be a pretty good catcher. The Florida starting catcher is out with injury. The Gators as a whole, Phillip, are banged up. Their starting shortstop, Colby Shelton, who's hitting .377 with 7 bombs, is questionable with a hamate injury. We'll see if he comes back. But they have former USF transfer Bobby Bozer, who's played some shortstop. He's got 16 bombs. He's hitting .330. Florida as a team has hit 88 home runs. And you have to remember, too, these are SEC numbers. ECU's hit 69 in the American. Florida's hit 88 in the SEC. On the mound, they have struck out 621 batters in 482 innings. ECU is a pretty good strikeout team, 524 strikeouts on the mound in 500 innings. But Florida almost just unreal numbers on the mound. And their Friday night guy has been Liam Peterson, sophomore, up to 97 on the mound, 95 strikeouts in 68 innings. Now, he has been prone to some long balls and at times can get a little erratic. And the one good thing that Florida fans have told me that it plays in ECU's favor, I should say, is they seem to struggle against left-handed pitching. Who is ECU's best pitcher? Ethan Norby. He is a lefty that is, quite frankly, murder on lefties with his arm slot. So I do think that plays in the ECU's favor. Although I personally have some concern about Norby because he threw 3 times last week and he's going to be on short rest. But we have some comments like from Chuck that say ECU's got to sweep this regional to win it. I kind of agree. It would be very tough. At least you got to win the first 2 games and then take your shot in the championship game. But you're going to need good Ethan Norby on Friday, assuming he goes, Phillip.
You are. And I think at the end of the day, we know how important going 2-0 is in these regionals. Going win-loss and loss-win is the exact same thing. It puts you in that Sunday morning game, having to win 2 Sunday and having to win 1 Monday. And because of that, I see no reason that this is not ace versus ace. We've in the past maybe rested an ace. We did it last year. We rested Trey, came back to bite us against Evansville, but then he was available to take on Chase Burns. And, Wake rested Chase Burns in the 2-3 game. Now, to be fair, they were the best 2 seed, theoretically, right, because they were playing the number 16 1 seed. But it came back to bite them, and they got bounced, went 0-2 because they played against Trey Savage and the number 1 seed of these Carolina Pirates. I think both aces have to go. I think if you cannot answer a question to your fans, to your donors, to the media, hey, you lost, but you did not throw your ace in a 2-3 game. I just don't see it. Now, could Godwin get away with a little bit just saying, hey, Norby's fatigue? He's pitched 3 times. We admitted going into last week that there's some arm fatigue there. Maybe CG can get away with it if, say he goes out and throws Sean Jenkins, even if Sean doesn't start, but he's your bulk innings guy, or Ethan Young is your bulk innings guy. But if you're East Carolina, you've got to expect to see Florida's ace because they're going to have to die on that hill. Because if they don't run him out there and we beat them 8-4, there's going to be a lot of questions from Gator media and Gator fans. And look, Florida's used to winning. They've won a baseball championship recently. They're coming off a basketball championship, and they've won multiple national championships in all of our lifetimes. They expect victories.
The Florida people, again, nothing's been announced yet. They do say Kevin O'Sullivan typically does start his number 1 pitcher. Now, the interesting thing is if you look at the numbers, their Saturday guy, who's more of a pitchability guy, Aiden King, a freshman, actually has slightly better ERA, all that. But Peterson's been their number 1 guy. So, it's possible they could choose to throw Aiden King, but Peterson's been their Friday guy, their game 1 guy for most of the year. They also have a 6'8", 250-pound lefty coming back named Pierce Coppola from injury, who has started 6 games, but he's been on a pitch count, but he has another dominant arm they will likely utilize if needed. So, look, the Gators are legit. Somebody brought up a good point on the podcast last night, Philip, that how used to Florida is, or how used are the Gators to seeing small ball, which we know Cliff Godwin will employ. I mean, he may do it out of the gate in the first inning. We typically we see this sometime. Although I am a little conflicted because I would like to see how Florida handles that, especially with all their infield injuries. They're missing their starting catcher, their shortstop's out. They've had to move some pieces around, so maybe you spring that upon them at some point. But the Coastal Carolina Stadium, Springbrooks Stadium, is 308 down the left field line and 328 down the right field line. Clark LeClaire is a launching pad, but 308 down the line, I mean, that, I don't even know what you call that. A bandbox? That is tiny. I guess a lot of it would depend on which way the wind's blowing, but that is a concern for me with Florida coming in with 88 bombs as a team.
It does. I go back. When's the last time they hosted a regional? Was it 2 years ago?
Coastal, yeah. 2 years ago when Duke went there.
And when Duke went there, man, that entire regional turned into a home run derby. Even the non-coastal Duke games. There was a game on Saturday, and I can't remember who played in it, and it was like whoever was up thought they had it won, and then they let up like 3 bombs in the last 2 innings and ended up losing. I think, it might have been Duke that actually lost. I think that's what put Duke in the loser's bracket. But this field historically, and we're going to see it again for 3 next year, we know that. If you can't hit bombs, man, you can get in a lot of trouble. Because, again, you say a solo shot won't kill you. No, but 4 or 5 of them will. And that team can hit 4 or 5. So you need somebody who can paint the corners. You need a strikeout pitcher. That's another reason I say you go Ethan Norby. You can't have a pitch to contact guy. Like Jake Hunter in this situation against a team like the Gators would worry me. And that's no disrespect to Jake, but in that ballpark against that club, I'd prefer Jake to see Coastal or see Fairfield. Perfect world, you win, Fairfield wins, and, you're throwing him Saturday. But against Florida, man, you have got to be a swing and miss pitcher.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that you mentioned that, as we also have a comment from Jack Dover. I was just going to bring up this point. He says, I'm more worried about Florida's bullpen. They have 2 shutdown arms in the back end, and I agree. I mean, Florida has a former starter, Jake Clemente, who is a big-time reliever, 74 strikeouts in 50 innings, 7 saves. And they also have Jackson Barberi and Luke McNelly. So they got some big-time pitchers that are going to rack up some Ks. Now, look, ECU does too. I mean, Ethan Young is a guy who could easily be a back-end bullpen guy in the SEC. So, like, game 1, Brad Pruitt, when Brad Pruitt is on, he could be an SEC back-end bullpen guy. So, like, if you're ECU, you go into this first game with your top bullets, both Ethans, Brad Pruitt. Lance Williams has elite caliber stuff when he's throwing strikes. I don't know if you'll see him in game 1. We got you have the veteran and Jake Hunter. Sean Jenkins has phenomenal stuff. So, like, you've got enough top-end bullets to match up with the Gators. Yeah, they've seen this stuff all year in the SEC, high-caliber pitching. But, look, good pitching, swing and miss pitching beats good hitting the vast majority of the time. So, even with the short dimensions, I personally would be surprised if – I'm probably going to regret saying this. The opening game of the regional is a high-scoring game because Norby, when he's on – assuming he gets to start once again, like he's tough to hit. Yeah, he gives up some home runs if he elevates the stuff. But typically, if he's locked in, we see good Norby. He rolls, and then Florida obviously has phenomenal talent. So it wouldn't surprise me if the first game of the regional, Philip, you have to win on either side, a 4-2, a 3-2 game, and we'll know more once we see where the winds carry in and all that. But it may come down to which team runs into a solo home run or two at the key time, and we saw it. In the big games in the past, we saw it against Chase Burns last year. It was a McChrystal bloop down the line and then a Dixon Williams home run after a couple walks. Like, those are typically the swings that make a difference in those types of games. Just kind of forecasting ahead to what we could see Friday.
They are. for sure. And, I think normally you would expect the opening game of a regional, especially if you get two aces, to be low scoring because you're going to, like I said, you're going to get the aces. But I think the difference is in this and maybe some other ones, and, you mentioned the Dixon home run. It worked. Obviously, Dixon's got a lot of power. Sometimes when you play, there's two teams out there, maybe it's a pitcher's ballpark, it's going to be the ground ball with eyes, or it's going to be the bloop single, and it's not going to be the home run. I think this game, it can be any of those things. It can always be the ground ball with highs. It can always be the bloop single. But in this game, against this team, in this ballpark, it can be that bad miss over the middle that the ball goes into orbit. And, the tough thing about that is sometimes those other things, bloop singles and such, maybe you don't make a bad pitch. Maybe you do paint the corner, and again, you get a ground ball, and it takes a weird hop. So you always have to be worried about those. And not saying if you miss over the heart of the plate, you're not going to pay ever, right? There's no game against a D1 baseball team in a D1 baseball park that no chance there's going to be a home run hit. But this is going to be one of those that it looks like if you do miss over the plate, the likelihood of it happening is a lot greater than it could be in some other situations.
All right, one more question. We'll take a break after this. I discussed this on the podcast last night, but Don brings it up again. I think it's worth mentioning. He says, radical thought, what do we think about using Norby in relief in all three games? He can shut down anybody for 3+ innings. I mean, look, I don't hate the thought. In fact, I think Norby is best in that role, but Philip, you can agree or disagree with me here. Like, you just don't really have another guy who you can go out there and start a regional. Like, who would you start if not Norby? We've seen Young. We've seen Pruitt up and down. I guess you could say Jenkins, but he just pitched Sunday through 80 pitches. So I don't know. Like, I think you almost have to start Norby if he's feeling okay by default because there's no other real option unless you just go true opener.
The reason this comment was made was because that is 100% Ethan Norby's role. That was who Ethan Norby was supposed to be. Ethan Norby should be used in all three games. He should be a reliever. Unfortunately, the rest of the roster doesn't allow you to do that. If Ryan Towers and Braden Burrus were healthy, we would 100% be having this conversation right now. I think the tough thing is not only it's a who do you start, but I think to the point of this comment is you put Ethan in the high leverage situation at the end of the game. It's not just that he throws 2 or 3 innings, it's that he throws the most crucial 2 or 3 innings. Who is going to throw enough innings to get you to those most crucial innings, if not Ethan Norby, especially on Friday night? That's the unfortunate circumstance. Cliff Godwin has been dealt a very tough hand. He was also dealt this hand in 2022. Now, it worked out good in 2022 because you had to play 4 games. You didn't have to play 5. We lost Game 6 to Coastal, had to come back, but they were very depleted. They were on their 5th game. But when you're dealt this odd hand of no true starters or one true starter, I think you have to roll with the guy that you think can eat the most innings because, like I said earlier in the show, how did we stay good last week? You didn't get behind the 8 ball. Yeah, you got behind in a game, but you didn't get behind in your rotation ever throughout the week and into the weekend. I think if you get behind in your rotation, there's no way out of this regional. You maybe can lose a game, but if you lose a game, you're going to need to lose a 2-1 game. Then you're going to go out there and need to win a game that either you run rule or you only let up 1 run and you can still use 2 pitchers because you're going to have to stay ahead of the 8 ball. This bullpen is just not deep enough.
All right, let's hit our final break. We'll come back. We'll wrap the show right after this.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Your roof is a vital part of protecting your home and family from dangerous storms and hurricanes. At Assist Roofing, we install and maintain metal roofing that provides precise protection. Add value to your home while lowering utility costs with a fortified roof to last a lifetime. With 0% financing, grants, and Energy Star Green Roofing tax credit available. Call us to schedule a free consultation so you can weather any storm with confidence.
Make every day electric on the Kawasaki Electro 20 electric balance bike. Maximize the fun with long run times, impressive top speed, and Kawasaki build quality. Easy adjustability and smooth handling make everyday riding more enjoyable. And the standard MTB type tires provide off-pavement capability. The Kawasaki Electro 20 is the electric balance bike that's built to rip. Go to Ron Ayers Motorsports, Memorial Drive north of the airport, Greenville.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's Cut in Color and let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
If you are interested in living longer and living stronger, Eastern Physical and Lifestyle Medicine is accepting new patients for a limited time. Finding a caring physician can be a challenge. Dr. Billy Smith is board certified in physical medicine and lifestyle medicine and has been practicing in the area for many years. Call for an appointment now to Eastern Physical and Lifestyle Medicine, 252-364-1108 in Greenville. That number again is 252-364-1108.
Looking for a great deal on a new Nissan?
At Greenville Nissan, we've got a great selection of new Nissans for under $30,000.
The stylish Nissan Sentra, offering top-notch fuel economy. The Nissan Altima, known for its comfort and technology.
The Nissan Kicks, the perfect combination with its compact design and performance. The Nissan Versa, delivering incredible value without compromising on features. And don't forget the Nissan Rogue, an award winner for 10 years in a row. Drive it home just for $22 down and $349 a month.
Visit GreenvilleNissan.com today.
Greenville Nissan, where we drive to serve.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227. Yo ho ho! And we're back to Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
Final segment here, final few minutes of the show. Appreciate all the comments today. We've gotten to most of them. I did forget to read Lane Smith's actual prediction earlier. He said, I've given it some thought. This is an offensive ballpark. I back our guys to keep hitting. We will steal the first game and sweep it. So Lane Smith, who called the conference championship run, he's now calling for the Pirates to win the Conway Regional. And he also says he could hit a home run at 308 feet, 12 beers deep. So Lane calling his shot in multiple ways there. Philip Pilkington alongside. Look, we're going to talk a lot of baseball this week. I do want to give Philip a chance. William Byron probably should have won. Definitely was in position to win the Coca-Cola 600. Awesome story with Ross Chastain winning, going from worst to first. So if you could share your thoughts on that, Philip. You were there in person. You got to see some history and a good race, but I'm sure a little tick you didn't see your guy win, right?
Yeah, he probably shouldn't have won the Xfinity race Saturday after his pit road speeding penalty and caught some lucky cautions and did win Saturday. But that one's not what pays his bills. That one's not what he's going to be competing for a championship in. Sunday, he had a good car. I think he drove the wheels off it a few times. Just didn't have the speed late to run away. And caught some lap traffic at the bad time, grazed the wall coming off 4, and Ross put himself in position to take the win. So congratulations to Ross. You know, look, I was disappointed. I can tell you, if Denny would have took it, I just would have been ticked off, and that was who it looked like who he was going to lose it to at one time. But still, he ended up winning all 3 stages. That's 3 playoff points. He scored 65 points total in the race. That will be the most anybody scores all year in a race, because it's not possible in the 600, other than the 600, to score more than 60 points. So he regained the points lead overall. Good weekend. But, you know, when you lead 283 laps, but, you know, it also was exciting. He led 14 different times for 283 laps. Really, other than stage 2, it wasn't like he was going out there and just dominating the competition. He didn't only lead twice, you know, and the only time he lost it was like during a green flag pit stop cycle. Like, it was a back-and-forth race, and Charlotte produced once again a little bit of a snooze fest early, but we had a good weekend, and, yeah, it was just a little frustrating.
Yeah, and Byron, he's from Charlotte, right?
Yeah,
from that area.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure disappointed not to win, but as you said, good showing. And yeah, I'm not a huge NASCAR guy, but the Melon Man, Ross Chastain, he seems to be a bit of a fan favorite. I know Casey Romeli was there, and he was happy. He got to see
so
the Pirates
is Chance
win.
Scott.
And then,
They were both there, and they're both Watermelon fans.
So, I mean, look, I guess if he had to lose, he lost to a guy that you can't really hate on, I guess.
Yeah, he's rubbed. I don't dislike Ross. There are a few guys that do not. He has rubbed some feathers the wrong way early in his career, but this day and time coming up through the ranks, who doesn't tick somebody off? Nice guys don't win in the sport. Nice guys don't win in life in general. So every now and again, maybe you got to make a gutsy move, and sometimes it hasn't paid off, and sometimes for him it has, like riding the wall at Martinsville.
Now, did you go to the Indy 500 part as well?
We got into the infield. So I saw it start at my house, the Indy 500, and then we got to the track, and then we saw the rest of it on the TV.
Okay. So you were watching that while doing this Charlotte, the infield at Charlotte.
Yeah, because the Indy 500 started at like 11 or 1, and then the 600 starts at 6. And unfortunately, Kyle Larson did not complete either race. He was trying to complete all 1,100
That's what I was going to ask. I know he was trying to become the first to do it in some time after not doing it last year. So didn't make the history. All right, we're out of time. Again, we are going to hit more baseball throughout the week. Plenty of baseball discussion coming your way, so I wanted to hit some NASCAR for Philip as well on the show. All right, we're out of time. We'll be back tomorrow. Carolina Curveball, Casey Romeli. And we'll also have his buddy Braxton with us as well, and then more coverage for the regional heading into the rest of the week. This is Hoist the Colors. We'll see you at 12 noon on Wednesday.